The two of you found the Episcopal Church in midlife after decades in other traditions. Tell us a little about your faith backgrounds.
Well, I grew up in a Quaker church in Denver, Colorado, an evangelical Friends church. Part of the service was a time for contemplation. So when we came to St. James and started getting involved in meditation, it seemed like a good fit. The other part of being in a Quaker church was, of course, the peace witness. And I feel similar leanings in the Episcopal Church and feel right at home with that as well. And then also the social justice aspect, different activities with people experiencing poverty, with racial injustice, just make it a very broad experience for me.
And I was raised by a very staunch Baptist set of parents in an Anabaptist church, which I enjoyed as a middle schooler and high schooler, and they really didn't, but liked that I liked church. So I started getting Anabaptist in me, I think, held up against the light of these staunch Baptists that were my parents.
After you returned to Pennsylvania from Colorado in 1997, you both took jobs at Water Street Mission, and you made a conscious choice to move from the comfortable suburbs to South Ann Street here in Lancaster City. Talk about that decision and what that has been like for you.
We really wanted to move into the city to be close to the people we were serving, to be close to poverty, and to move to a neighborhood and have an impact in that neighborhood.
We've since heard it referred to as getting proximate to the world's suffering, and we were doing that without necessarily knowing that's what we were doing.
Yeah, I think living in the city, it just gives you a different perspective on all sorts of issues, from racism to police activity to poverty, and being close to that just changes you, and I think gives you more compassion. I think you end up being better neighbors and being better people. Hopefully, that's what we're doing.
Our lives are fuller and richer because there's a lot of people all around us, nearly all the time, who don't look like us and don't live like us and have had different life experiences. And I quickly remember learning that we had a choice to come here and that was completely different than our neighbor right next door, 10 feet away, who wanted to get out and probably never would be able to.
The two of you have 4 grown children, all of whom, like you, are leading lives of service to others. But there was something unique and rare about the way your kids were born. Tell us about that.
One of our claims to fame is that we have 2 sets of twins. Twin boys who are now 25.
Almost 26.
25. And twin girls who are 23, 24. We don't know how old they are.
They're 17 months apart.
17 months apart.
So we only have 2 ages to keep track of, but those were really intense months and years. And so we've lost some brain cells.
Yeah, so when they were all 4 in diapers, and we were changing 200 diapers a week, our church, the Friends Church in Denver, stepped up to the plate. And they would come over and take the kids while we would jump in the shower or get a bite to eat or take a little nap. They were essential to our early years with our kids.
You both have really intense jobs that can be emotionally draining. What have you found and learned at St. James that helps you care for yourself spiritually?
I think we've both talked about being instead of only doing and how that's emphasized at St. James. To me, that has kind of manifested itself in how I want my home to be. I want my home to be a sanctuary. The best way to can describe that is that being open to my children and their friends and people in the congregation, people in the neighborhood, I think that has kind of bubbled up from what I've learned at St. James about being first, and then from that, the outpouring of doing.
I would say that in the past, there was an awful lot of emphasis on doing, and we were not being. And some of that is almost comical to look back on and say, well, sure, if we were raising 4 babies, there was a lot of doing. I didn't have time to sit and meditate, trust me. But I think my faith has grown greatly because I am stopping to sit and be and really connecting, sensing that being in God and being in God's presence and being in worship.
Community,
yeah, and belonging. We've sensed that here, and then that carries us to the doing that often has to happen Monday morning when we go to work or Wednesday night when we're talking to our neighbor. We've learned maybe later to start with being and being still and hearing from God.
When you're spent and worn out from doing, then you come back to the recharging. Then you're ready to go out again and do some more.
I want to make a difference. If it's with a client, if it's with a neighbor, if it's with somebody I'm serving as a Eucharistic minister, if it's having a kind word for a stranger. I am not Mother Teresa, though, so that all just sounded really schmaltzy just then. Because I'm also a real jerk sometimes.